We're going to learn about the Phillips curve now. You can see here on this, and you have one of these, um, at your house, you have one of these I shared with you, but this is a basic Phillips curve here. You can see they have unemployment rate on the X and inflation rate on the Y. And essentially what Phillips did was he looked at a whole bunch of data over about a 20 or 30 year period. And he essentially saw that in the short run, and it's the short run, there is an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. And we can kind of see that pretty easily if we look at, let's say, just say the AD curve. Okay. So here's the AD curve, all right, that I'm ably drawing. And you know that this is, GDP, and this is our price level. So we also know that as we move this way, unemployment goes lower. And as we move this way, unemployment gets higher. So essentially, if we're sitting right here, right, we'll call this, point A. If we're sitting here at point A, then inflation's up here and our unemployment's, a little bit higher because we're not making as much GDP. But then if our AD, let's say, goes down, we have a reduction in aggregate demand, then all of a sudden, oh, that's not a good point. Let me do this. I'm sorry. Let's say this is point B here. I'm sorry. Get rid of this. Here's how I get rid of this. Erase. Oh, look at that. All right. So if this ends up being point B, then you can see that the price level goes down while unemployment, the price level goes down, inflation goes down as unemployment goes down. So here at point A, high inflation gives us low unemployment, and then low inflation gives us higher unemployment, right? So essentially what's happening is, now I'll erase all this real fast with this little thing. The short run Phillips curve, this is maddening. The short run Phillips curve, and this would be a short run Phillips curve. Essentially, this just moves with AD. So if we are on a point, let me do this. This is taking an absurd amount of time. If we're on a point on the short run Phillips curve, and we'll call that point A right here, you can see that we're at this level of inflation, this kind of unemployment. But the unemployment goes up. You can see unemployment goes up, so a higher rate of unemployment with lower rate of inflation, right? So as we move up this curve, we'll call this point A, right? And if this is point B, where we have high unemployment but low inflation, and then we'll say this is point C, we have really high inflation, but we have really low unemployment. So essentially the short run Phillips curve, just wherever it moves, if we move along the Phillips curve, anywhere along the Phillips curve is a shift. It's a shift of AD. Okay, so if we move anywhere along the Phillips curve, it's going to be a shift aggregate demand, right? So the further we move left, the AD will actually go to the right. The further we go to the right on this curve, we go this way, right? I'll make a different color. As we go this way, then AD shifts to the left. So essentially, they just go in opposite directions. Okay, so this is our short run Phillips curve. That anytime that we move along the curve, it's a shift of AD. So if we move along the curve going right, AD shifts left, right? So here is aggregate demand. If we move this way, if we move right along the Phillips curve, then that'll give us a shift to the left. And you can kind of see that, right? So if we're moving right along the Phillips curve, that means unemployment rate is going up, but inflation's going down, kind of like here. When AD goes to the left, you can see the unemployment rate is going this way. So the unemployment rate is increasing as inflation is decreasing. But if we shift along the curve this way, you can see that unemployment's going down while inflation's going up, kind of like if we have AD shift to the right? So you can see unemployment, we're getting more GDP, so unemployment's going down, but inflation's going up. So it's important to know that in the short run, as long as you move along this curve, it's a shift of AD, right? So the Phillips curve and the AD curve are essentially going in opposite directions, but you can sort of see it when you look at AD. They sort of say the same thing. I'm not sure why you had to have a Phillips curve because it essentially says the same thing as an AD curve does, which, as you know, is in the short run. Okay. When we come back, I will do a long run Phillips curve and show you how that changes. All right.